Hello. Am I audible, sir? Hello.
Yeah, now you're audible. Yeah.
Sorry, sir. Actually, I was disconnected because of the network issue. Now I'm back.
Oh,
Sorry for the interruption. So, without
no
wasting
problem.
much time, so let us initiate the session. Good evening to you all. Myself, Dr. Himanshu Sharma, on the behalf of Team Physio Inculcator, I would like to welcome you all in our today's session. Today, we have a very special resource person with us, and he is going to talk on something much needed, uh, untouched area of the fitness. That today we will have a learning on the fitness in the special conditions. Today's resource person is our Dr. Y. Ramakrishnan sir. We are really fortunate to have sir again with us on the board, with us here. Dr. Ramakrishnan sir is having more than 20 years of experience in the fitness as well as in the health industry. He has trained athletes in the various sports like hockey, cricket, athletics, squash, swimming, motor racing, and many others. Dr. Ramakrishnan has accreditation and with the various multinational companies, and he has done his post graduation in the sports biomechanics and kinesiology from the Tamil Nadu Physical Education and Sports University. Dr. Ramakrishnan has also done PG in the nutrition and physical activity from Bristol University, UK. He is also a sports performance enhancer specialist for the NASA, National Association of Sports Medicine, USA. Dr. Ramakrishnan is also a sports injury management and fitness trainer for the National Coaching Council, UK, and he is also a fitness leader for the British Weightlifting Association, UK, and is also having the Kinesio Tapping and K Tapping Academy. So we are really fortunate to have Ramakrishnan sir with us on the board, and I would like to say welcome to you, sir, on the board from the core of my heart. And it is a indeed pleasure and matter of honor for us that you have spared the time for us and you accepted our request to share your precious knowledge for the participants. Thanking you, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank, thank you, Himanshu. I hope everybody can hear me,
Yes,
and
sir.
hope
Yes, sir.
all of you are safe and sound at your places now that the lockdown is getting over slowly. Thank you again to invite me. Last session we had a talk on kinetic chain alignment and how it works in fitness. So we thought today we'll speak about a topic which is quite evident in our fitness industry, but not many trainers, look into that because they don't have the required level of energy. But we have tried to incorporate that knowledge into their training programs. So let's see that if we could add those things. And what I like to add to this is today's session is not with regards to the clinical aspect of the conditions. It's more towards from the fitness end of the thing. So I hope you enjoy the session. And if you have any queries, you can write it in the chat. At the end of the chat, I will also give you my email ID, or Himanshu will share it with you. And you can share your doubts to me and I can reply back that. All right. So let's continue with the session. First and foremost, like the topic suggests, it's fitness and special conditions. So what is fitness all about?
Sir,
Now, when we talk about fitness,
sir,
it's not just lifting weights and
excuse me, sir. You need to be a bit
hello.
louder. Yes, sir. Now it is fine.
Boli.
Now it is fine. Voice was a bit low. Now it is fine.
Oh, okay. I'll hold the mic.
Yes, sir. Please, sir.
Okay, great. So when it comes to fitness, what fitness is all about? Fitness, yeah. Fitness is not just about lifting weights or running on a treadmill, because that's what mainly people, when they talk about fitness, you think about, bodybuilders or weightlifter, but it's not just that. When you go to a gym, you'll see more common crowd, more common public going into gym. And many of them have many ailments. And as a trainer, it is very important for you to understand those ailments and understand how to incorporate your training program, how to modify your training program as per the required need. So there has to be a customized workout plan. So in today's session, while discussing the various needs, I will also show you in some conditions various workout plans which I have designed for people. So that will give you a generalized idea. So what is fitness? Fitness is an ability of an individual to carry out activities of daily lives without undue fatigue, and also having certain amount of energy left out for your leisure activities. So it is not just about doing your work, you should also have certain amount of energy left out for your leisure activities. Now, when it comes to fitness, the society what we live in, right? It puts undue stress on our body, and that's stress. If you are able to manage that stress, if you are able to withstand that stress, it makes us fit. Now, this stress need not be just psychological; it could be also physical. So let's look into that. See, when we talk about fitness trainers frequently encountering clients with special needs and health concerns, I hope all of you are able to see the slides there. Documentation of client encounters, health status, and progress is especially important. When we talk about documentation, we talk about fitness assessment. So before, when a client joins a gym, it is very much important for you to take the client's fitness assessment. Like when they come to you for a treatment, you take a physio assessment. Similarly, fitness assessment is so much more important. Let me give you an example. In one of the gym I used to consult, there was a client who took a break of 3 years. So when he came back to the gym, his trainer was very happy that he had a personal training client. He could sign him up so he could get his incentive and all that. But before he could do the physio assessment, he thought, okay, I know this client. I've trained him for so many years earlier. So let me start his testing, fitness testing. So he made him stood on his EFX or elliptical cross trainer. And within 2 minutes, the client collapsed. And luckily, there was a physio there who could give the CPR to the client. And when we took the client to the hospital, we found out that the client had around 4 blockages in the coronary artery. Now the clients sometimes don't share those issues with your trainers, but it is it's your what do you say, your responsibility to how do I say it? It's your responsibility to ask the client the medical and the physical history of the client. And if the trainer would have initiated a physio assessment, or if the trainer would have asked for a past and present medical history before going into testing or fitness testing, these situations could be avoided. In general, clients with chronic conditions should always go from low to moderate exercise program and gradually progress. Many of you remember your Calin Krishna or Dina Gardner. We speak about principles of exercise, and one of the main thing in principles of training is progressive overload. When we talk about training and overloading, it's not sudden loading. You cannot load your client like this. You need to have a progressive overload. You start with a lower intensity, medium intensity, and a gradual intensity. And likewise, slowly, gradually, when you do that, the client will end up having more adaptive nature to the workout plan. And the client needs to adapt to the workout plan. He or she needs certain times to adapt to your plan, and your plan needs to be accordingly. And communication with healthcare professionals is very critical. That's why I keep on saying physiotherapists are the best trainers, according to me. They are the best trainers you can find because they have the foundation for the medical conditions. They have the foundation for your anatomy and physiology. So you understand human body much more better. So nowadays, various fitness courses are coming with anatomy and physiology and medical condition or special population. Now, today's topics, we are mainly discussing mostly are metabolic conditions, and they are quite a few number of them. So I'm going to discuss few of them which I have encountered during my work experience, and how we try to incorporate certain plans to that. All right. So let's look into the next slide. The first and foremost, like I said about that client, cardiovascular disorder, otherwise known as CAD, also known as atherosclerosis heart disease. They are the narrowing of coronary artery that supplies heart muscles with blood and oxygen.
Excuse me, sir.
Please remember
sir,
that not only obese client, even strong.
Sir, please, your voice was quite low. Can you please be a bit louder? You can wrap the earphone around the ears. Then I think the mic automatically will come closer to the mouth. No, not one more.
No, this is the maximum it comes. Abhi?
Not now, sir. Actually, I think you need to hold only.
Okay, then I'll
Sorry,
hold it and
sorry
talk.
to
It's
bother
all
you.
right, no
Yeah,
problem.
yeah, yeah, sir.
No problem. But can you hear when I hold it?
Yeah, now it is absolutely fine, sir.
Okay. Okay, a narrowing of coronary artery that supplies the heart with blood and oxygen is very, very thing. You have to understand the condition. Like I have told you earlier, how a client had an issue, and when we could not diagnose that client. And this condition doesn't not only happen with an obese client or a client with a pre-existing condition. Sometimes even athletes, you might have heard with many Premier League athletes or athletes who are playing in Italian league, professional football players, suddenly while playing they had a cardiac arrest. So you need to understand those conditions. There is a necessity right now for every trainer to have a knowledge about CPR. Okay, that is the must for any trainer. Now, how do we handle such clients? The mode, intensity, and duration. That is what you need to understand. You need to gradually progress to a moderately intense exercise utilizing interval type training. Interval type training is nothing but you have a higher intensity training or then lower intensity, or you have a moderate intensity and a lower intensity. So there is a fluctuation of, but you cannot jump into an interval training directly. What you need to do is from a slow, low intensity continuous training, gradually progress into an interval training. Because when you go directly into interval training, there is a pressure on your heart. The heart will not be able to sustain the load which coming through because of the workout. And the resistance program, when I say resistance program, they are weight training. You need to utilize at least 1 to 2 sets of 12 to 15 repetition of 8 to 10 exercises. So remember that in your total exercise session, you should not have more than 18 sets. That is the key thing. And provided if, and these conditions are not for acute clients, they are for chronic clients who have already undergone procedures and they have been given permission by their health professionals to come and take and work out. So trainers are always advised to talk to physios or the physicians before undertaking such exercise programs, because that will reduce the risk factors. And it is very important to do so. So what is the intensity of the workout? When I talk about intensity in cardio, you talk about target heart rate. And target heart rate is derived from taking a percentage of your maximum heart rate. What is maximum heart rate? As all of you know, it is around 220 minus age, approximately. So for a general weight loss client, we usually advise around 55% to 75% of maximum heart rate according to American Council of Sports Medicine. We in India tend to follow ACSM usually because we don't have our own training, research done as per our. So we tend to follow that and modify it as per our own clientele. Now, in this case, if a client had a history, I'm speaking here, please remember, had her history, not is having. Because if the client is having an acute case, I would not suggest any fitness program. I would send them to a physio or a cardiac therapist rather than coming to a gym and doing. Now, if a client had a history of CAD, what you need to do is start an intensity of not 55 percentage, just around 40 percentage to 50 percentage. And when you talk about rate of perceived exertion, Boggs theory, right, scale, you need to work around 9 to 11 percentage only. And your heart rate should be just above your 20 to 30 beats over your resting heart rate. Now, resting heart rate is again a contention, because usually when we talk about your resting heart rate, you measure it only when you get up immediately after your sleep. So if I'm just sitting down, I cannot check my resting heart rate. But the key thing when it comes to a cardiac workout plan is to understand what is the recovery rate for a client. And the recovery should be mostly active recovery, not that at every set the client should just sit down. You should not sit down after every set. You need to just walk slow intensity or just relax, and don't drink any fluid when your heart rate is still higher. That is a common mistake what people tend to do it. So your target heart rate should be around 40 to 50 percentage, and gradually you should increase it up to 60 to 70 percentage over a period of time, but not beyond that. But when you come to your weight training, the key thing in weight training you have to understand is you should avoid any workout which is high intensity. So you should not be lifting heavier weights. So initially, calisthenics or body weight exercises are what advised for such clients. And what you need to understand while doing this workout is to avoid any overhead workouts. Like if you have a history of cardiac problem or even pulmonary problem and neurological issues for that matter also, and even in cases of hypertension, which we'll talk a little later, and hypertension, you need to avoid any condition which is overhead. So instead of doing a shoulder press, you need to do front raise, and you should not raise your weight above your shoulder level. And also you need to avoid exercises in initial stages lying down, supine workout. So you need to keep your leg in a crooked lying with a knee bent, which is much more advisable, but that too initial stages should be avoided. But if you need to give any lying workout, it should be an inclined at a degree of around 60 to 70 degrees. Okay, and you could put it in a 60 to 70 degrees. There is not too much strain going to the heart. So, and heart should never be below. So decline workouts, decline bench press, those things should be avoided in initial stages. Any heavy weight should be avoided in initial stages. My suggestion is to go with calisthenics workout, and trust me, calisthenics is one of the best workouts. Right now, even in lockdown phase, using calisthenics for cardio and weight loss, I have lost for my client close to around 10 kilos. And the client does not have any history of CAD, but she has a neurological, especially trigeminal neuralgia. She has a trigeminal neuralgia, and because of her medications, she put on weight. But because using such modified variations of workout, I could get results of loss of around more than 10 kilos within 3 months. And that's pretty good. Okay. So when you go to duration, initial stages of starting, you should start with 20 minutes and gradually go up to 30 minutes of workout. And don't go beyond like 30. See, when I say 20 to 30 minutes, these are excluding warm up and cool down. So we will look at in a later stage about exercise induced asthma and those conditions and how we need to do warm up. But warm up for cardiac client should be a slow, sustained warm up. And you should always include in warm up and cool down breathing exercises. And that would help the client to get used to a workout. And earlier when I said about active recovery between sets, you should always give the clients breathing exercises as a part of recovery also. Now, when it comes to frequency, frequency means how many days a week you would train. According to, again, American Council of Sports Medicine, what you should advise for a client with a medical condition is when you start working out, you should start initially 3 days a week, that is alternative days, and then gradually progress to 5 days a week. And then you can even go up to 6 days, that doesn't matter. But to reach that 5 days a week, it depends upon your abilities, what is your condition, and as per the trainer's advice. That is how we need to work upon. Next, we look at hypertension. Now, when we talk about hypertension, having systolic blood pressure higher than 140 and diastolic higher than 90, or even taking antihypertensive medication. Now, again, I will give you an example of a client. I have a client right now who is 57 years old, and he is a bodybuilder. Okay, he is a bodybuilder. And he is also under medication of hypertension. So we had this issue that we could not initially push him with high intensity workout. But over a period of 1 year, we have pushed him and trained him. And he actually came to US in 2018 and won 3 gold medals. At the age of 55, he won 3 gold medals in bodybuilding, sports physics, and men's physics with a hypertension. So what I'm trying to tell you here is, if you're having hypertension, yes, if you're under medication, certain modification of the workout and diet has to be done. And when you do that, you can actually work out as good as regular clients. But what you need to understand is, again, decline workout, heavy overhead workouts have to be avoided initially for hypertension. And the warm up and cool down is of prime importance. When I talk to you in the later stages about more workout plans and all, I'll show you more details. I will tell you about how a warm up and cool down should be planned, right? Now, exercise guidelines endurance exercise should be of primary exercise mode. Isometric exercise should be avoided. Why you should avoid isometric is it suddenly uses a rush of blood. The muscles gets activated very fast. So usually we give isometric workout for clients who are having any muscular injury, who are recovering from a muscular injury, and they've come to a gym and they have a weakness of a muscle, or they come with a low back pain. So for such clients, we usually suggest isometric workout. But in such cases, you need to avoid isometric because many clients also tend to do Valsalva maneuver, where they hold on to the breath when you do isometric, and that could increase the blood pressure to the brain. And weight training should feature low resistance and a high repetition. When I talk about high repetition, it's around 15 repetition in a circuit training program. What is a circuit training program again? Circuit training program involves all the components of fitness. So you do one weight and one cardio, one weight and one cardio. So all the components, fitness as well as all the major muscles. So usually there are 8 stations put up in a circular way, and alternate weights and cardio is done. But again, this circuit training is an intermediate training. It is not for beginners. So to get into a circuit training, the client usually needs a month or two, get into the hang of working out, and gradually push the training further and progress accordingly. Now, when you talk about intensity, the heart rate intensity would be slightly higher than a cardiac client, or very similar to cardiac client when you look at it. Your heart rate, target heart rate should be around 40 to 65% of MHR. Okay, initial stages, and gradually progress to around 70% of MHR. And the duration of the client during workout should be around initially 20 minutes and gradually progressing to 30 minutes and then going up to 45 minutes per session. And again, similarity to cardiac condition, the frequency of the client has to be around 3 to 5 minutes, 3 to 5 days a week. You start with 3 days and gradually progress into 5 days per week. I hope you guys got an idea about. See, you need to understand that it's very similar. The exercise plan for cardiac patients, hypertension patients, hypotension patients, and even some cases neurological and pulmonary patients mainly are very similar. You work around 40 to 65% of MHR. Your target heart rate should be around. And then you gradually, your repetition is around 12 to 15 repetition, 1 to 2 sets, where you don't go beyond 16 to 18 reps in a per session. And total workout, including warm up and cool down, should not be initially more than 40 to 45 minutes and gradually going up to 1 hour. There are many people who work out for around 2 hours, 3 hours in a gym. That is of no use. Just because you spend a longer time in a gym doesn't mean that you will get more benefit. Rather than quantifying is, you need to focus on the quality of the workouts which you are doing. That is the key thing in planning an exercise program. Now, type 2 diabetes. Now, yeah, before going to type 2, people ask that why not type 1? In case of type 1, fitness doesn't have much of a role to play. Yes, what it does is it keeps you fitter, keeps your, improves your, diet pattern. It does help you to control your fitness level. It does improves your fitness capacity. But in cases of how it is in type 2, you will not be able to bring down the blood sugar level that much because it is not insulin dependent. Because when we talk about type 2 diabetes, it's mostly as a lifestyle related. And around 75% of people coming to gym who are obese are having type 2 diabetes. As the demand of insulin increases for such clients, the pancreas gradually loses the ability to produce it. So, like I said, around 75% of type 2 diabetes people are obese or have a history of obesity, either themselves or in their family. The primary goal is twofold: normalize glucose metabolism and prevent diabetes associated complications. Now, before going into workout plan, what you have to understand is proper management of diabetes require a team approach. The physician, diabetes educators, and very important is the nutritionist or dietitians and exercise specialist. And the most important of all, the clients, their own motivation factor. When it comes to diabetes, first you have to understand the nutrition, how our nutritional value, how it works in our body, how it works in the physiology. the primary energy source in our body is glucose. The secondary energy source is fat. Now, in case of diabetes, it is higher blood sugar level. So I'm trying to simplify it very much. I'm not going into detail, too much clinical detail. The simplified way is, whenever you do your workout, the initially body uses the energy is glucose. When you take glucose or carbohydrate, it is saved inside our body, in your muscle or in your liver as glycogen. So glucose or carbohydrate is saved in your muscle or in your liver as a glycogen. Now this glycogen is used as a source of energy when you do training, because glycogen is nothing but how do you say, is a primary source of energy. You need to focus on using this glycogen. So when you reduce the glycogen, use the glycogen or use the carbs as an energy source, your blood sugar level also comes down. So many people, what they do is, initially they do a lot of cardio, lot of running, lot of treadmill, they buy the equipment. But what you need to understand in terms of training is, when you do cardio before weight training, you don't burn much of fat. Yes, you burn blood sugar level. But like I said, 75% of the client who are diabetic are also obese. I see them regularly in the gym. So let's give you an example. Let's see an 1 hour of training. In that 30 minutes weight training and 30 minutes cardio. So if you do cardio first, in that 30 minutes, initial 20 minutes will be carbohydrate, and next after 20 minutes, fat will be used as a source of energy. That is the key thing in training. So initial 20 minutes of cardio or your aerobic training is used as carbohydrate. After 20 minutes, it is fat is used as a source of energy. But when it comes to weight training or resistance training or strength training or even your calisthenic workout always uses carbohydrate as a source of energy. They don't use fat as a source of energy in their mechanism. So if you do cardio first, so initial 20 minutes, you are using carbohydrate, then you are using fat for half an hour. And then when you go back to weight training again, you're again using carbohydrate. So yes, you are burning a lot of carbs, but if your issue is also weight, you are not burning much fat. So like you say, with one stone, two birds, if you want to control that, you need to do weight training first. How? Initially with 20 or 30 minutes of weight training, will use your carbohydrates. And after that, when you do cardio, immediately your fat burn will start. So you are not also bringing your blood sugar level down, you are also bringing your fat level down. So I had a client who had 470 actually type 2 diabetes due to stress level, and he was not obese actually at all. He was karate regular. He practices karate martial arts and all that. He was very lean, but he has high diabetes 470, and by following weight training, because when you do a lot of weight training mostly and little lesser cardio, we could be able to bring his fat diabetic level down to around 150 within a period of 3 to 4 months. So that is how a diabetes control can be done. Now, remember, whenever you talk about bringing down your type 2 diabetes, you need to do a lot of weight training. Or when I say weight training, it's not just lifting weights. It could also be your calisthenics. It could be also your strength training and your own body weight, as we say. But remember, talk to the nutritionist, because around 60 to 70% of weight loss is done only through your diet control. And that is very, very important. Now, exercise guideline for diabetes, again, you see, you work around 5 to 6 times a week. Your rate of perceived exertion is quite higher compared to hypertension. And your intensity of the workout, according to ACSM, again, you will work around 55% to 75% initially for weight loss. And then you start doing 70 to 85%. See, again, 70 to 85% actually burns more amount of fat, but it is not, will be, people who are beginners will not be able to sustain that for a longer period. So general aerobic endurance exercise are very appropriate. When we say endurance workout, It is about sustained workout over a period of time. It could be aerobic endurance, or it could be also muscle endurance workout, where you work around 15 to 18 repetition or 12 to 15 repetition, 2 to 3 sets, where I would suggest all the major muscle, and specifically leg muscles are also advised, because larger group of muscles, when you work them, they are higher amount of blood sugar level you can burn. So weight training, and aerobic endurance exercises are very appropriate for diabetes. Now let me show you certain examples of workouts. These are calisthenics workout which you could do for your clients. These are done at the time of lockdown. You see that I've worked with abs, core, and legs for 3 days plus cardio. Now the client didn't had any fitness equipment at home. So what I suggested is to do a in a interval or intermittent training workout. When I say intermittent, there is a difference between interval training and intermittent training. Interval is high, low, alternate workout, whereas intermittent is different variations of workout, different modality. Suddenly use a step, your staircase as a thing, or suddenly you'll walk on a flat surface. So when you use different places, your muscles work in a different way. You need to shock your system. The idea is to shock your system so that you burn more calories here. So these are the various variations of workouts which you can do. Now bridging and squats, like they say, is the king of all workouts. It is one of the most effective workouts which you can do in case of training. And no need of overhead squats and all those heavy weights. You can also use water bottles. If you don't have dumbbells at home, you can use 1 liter water bottles and hold them and use as a mode of resistance. And these are some of the workouts: day 1, day 3, and day 5, where I worked on abs, core, and legs and cardio. And arms and cardios on day 2 and day 4. Again, if you have a cycle at home, you can use again cycle as a mode of activity, which is brilliant. Now many clients have an issues with low back pain and they are not able to run or walk. In such cases, I would advise them a cycle which is known as recumbent bike. This recumbent bike has a slightly inclined backrest. What it helps in those cases is your pedaling is more horizontal, it's not vertical, so the impact is not that much. The heart rate doesn't increases that high, and people who are a little elderly can also do recommend bike much more better than a regular cycle. So don't look at intensity initial stages, look at completing the workout, or doing as look at form. So if you look at arms, you're doing a basic workout like biceps curl or wall push-ups or triceps kick back, and then you're doing your rest of workout. Now, when you look at the recovery, between each set, is 30 to 40 seconds of active recovery is given. That is the key thing I'm looking at. Because unless you don't recover that well, your next set will not be appropriate. So as you are doing in your first set, your second set and third set should be equally good. Now, again, look at the repetition 10 to 12 reps. If you again remember your exercise therapy, DeLorme's theory. DeLorme is the father of strength training. In 1920s, he devised a technique where to improve your strength, the best range of repetition is around 10 to 12 repetitions. The whatever amount of weight you can lift, but you should lift around 10 to 12 repetition. And this is something which I even give for my professional athletes or general public. I work around those 10 to 12 reps. And when you work around those 10 to 12 reps, an isotonic workout, it really improves upon the strength of the client. And as muscle improves, the metabolism increases. See, the idea is to increase your BMR. That is the key thing. When it comes to metabolic conditions, the idea is to increase your BMR. And how do you increase your BMR? By increasing your
Hello. Hello. I think sir is having some disconnection on their end. They are trying to reconnect with them. Till then, kindly be patient. Please wait a minute. We are trying to reconnect with the sir. Sir is again with us. Sir, good evening, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now I'm making you the host again. You can share the slides again, sir.
Okay.
You are the host now, sir.
So, all right. Right? Is it visible now?
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir. Clearly visible. Please go ahead.
Are you able to hear me also?
Yeah, yes, sir. You need to keep the mic closer. Rest all things are no,
Okay.
everything fine. Yeah.
All right. I sincerely apologize to everybody for issues.
No,
That's what happens when we
no
depend
issues, sir.
upon technology.
Yeah, it happens due to it is not in our hand. Technical problem is there. And heartiest
Yes.
welcome to you back on the stage.
Thank you. All right. Like everybody, like I was talking about, I hope you got an idea about how we are working out. Now, in this intermediate plan, what we are focusing is about on machine workouts. Now, before getting into machine, I always advise people to work on their calisthenic. My simple funda is, if you're not able to lift your own body weight, how would you lift any other weight? As simple as that. So, and when you work on machine, and that is much more initially important than you work on free weights like dumbbells and barbells. Again, another reason for that is machine provides artificial stabilization, which is at very poor initially for clients. So when you suddenly get into a dumbbell and barbell without any prior experience, you don't have uniformity and systematic in your training. It is not balanced in training. That is when it leads to injury. That is why always I would suggest go with calisthenics workout, progress into machines and bands and all, and then you go into a free weights. That will provide you better, but don't depend upon machines only, because if you allow the machines to train you more and more, what happens is your own core strength doesn't improve. They all should be combined. That's why if you look at it, even though I have given most of the machine, I'll try to give as much as you can multi-joint exercises than a single joint workout. Because when you do multi-joint exercises, it is better, and the usage of muscle is higher. And when you use your muscle much more, what happens is your BMR increases. That is the key thing in your training. Now, how do we plan cardio? As I suggested earlier, the target heart rate is the key thing which you need to focus upon. All of you might be aware of Karmanen formula. I don't want to get into Karmanen formula too much, because there you calculate your resting heart rate, and then you subtract the resting heart rate after calculating the percentage. Now, I personally have an issue with that, because resting heart rate is best calculated as soon as you get up in the morning. All right. At this time, when everybody at stress, your resting heart rate will not be 40 or 45 or even 50. It's going to be as much as regular 75 or 80 only. There was no purpose behind that. So what I suggested is you do this target heart rate, which is around 55 to 75 percentage of maximum heart rate. This is followed universally as per the norms given by American College of Sports Medicine, or otherwise known as ACSM. It is quite unfortunate that in India, having such high resources, none of us have any research done on this. But what you can do is understand your client by doing the physio assessment, And don't directly give 55 to 70 initially. Break it down as per the client's capability. Give it from 55 to 60, then 60 to 65, then 65 to 70. Gradual progression. The progression overload, it should be progressive overload, not straight overload. That could lead to injury. So the options, multiple options which I've given for the client is use your treadmill, jog or run, an EFX, or bike, 10 minutes seat. Now this type of training, the option one is known as intermittent training. I'm not a big fan of continuous training. When I say continuous training, you use a single machine over a period of time. There are researchers, and I've also seen with my own clients, that when you use multiple modalities, be it an equipment or multiple different ways of workout, you burn more calories. Like if you do 30 minutes of only treadmill, you might burn around 150 or 200 calories in that. But if you do 30 minutes of 10 minutes of treadmill, EFX or a cycle each, you will burn close to 250 calories. And that is what, because training is all about here. It's all about here. That's how it starts. And once your mind is at it, and when you see that you don't have to spend 30 minutes, and lots of people get bored after a certain period of time. And because we work in a service industry, fitness industry is also a service industry, we need to focus on clients, clients needs to sustain in the plan. I don't want them to go away within a period of time. Then I don't get my results. All right. The option two is 10 minutes bike at 75 to 90% RPM, revolutions per minute, and then 10 minutes of EFX. Then option three is 10 minutes bike, 5 minutes at 10 minutes inclination. And look at the third option. That is for little more advanced clients. Here, instead of walking on a flat surface, I'm inclining the surface. It is really great because your BMR really increases in that. But I would not advise this for cardiac clients. I would not advise this for hyper or hypotensive clients, or even for any neurological clients initially, if they have just recovered and come, because that puts a lot of stress on body. And also people who are flexibility, hip flexibility is poor, I would not advise them, because the glutes, it is one of the best workouts to work on your glutes inclines. That's why they say hill climbing or trekking or hiking, when you do it, it's one of the best. So it replicates those kinds of training. And when I say 10 minutes bike, we speak about your speed bike, or when you say spin bike, one of the best bikes. When you look at an upright bike or a regular exercise bike, you cannot replicate the same features as what you do have a regular bike. But a spin bike, which has a metal plate in front, can replicate the same kind of experience what you get when you do a regular bike. Yes, it is a touch expensive, but the effects what you get, the calorie burn. Let me give you the maximum what we did with our athletes. One of the Ranji players are the cricketers, which they play at the state level. We had a group session in 2010, I remember. 45 minutes to 50 minutes session, we burned close to 1,000 calories in that. Yes, those people are all extremely fit. Yes, I used to have spin bike classes for my clients, where regular common people also used to come. And in 45, 30 minutes with good rest recovery period in between, we used to burn close to 500 calories in 45 minutes. And that is brilliant. That is what our key. So the key is to burn calories, but the right amount of calories. Just because you're burning calories doesn't mean that you'll lose weight or you will cut down your blood sugar level and all. You have to burn the right calories if you want to get your optimal result. Now here again, one of the most, I wouldn't say common, but you have people with exercise induced asthma. Many times they are not aware of those conditions. It is characterized by shortness of breath, wheezing, coughing, chest tightness. The inflammatory response is triggered, typically set by triggers like the environmental condition, outdoor training. Now, just because you have these conditions doesn't mean that you will not be able to work out. I'll give you a couple of examples, one common person and one athlete. And if you follow professional football, and Manchester United, there used to be a player from Manchester United called Paul Scholes, one legendary player, amazing footballer. He's retired now. From his young age, he used to have exercise-induced asthma. And this I'm talking about early 90s to 2010 he played. And he as well, in spite of having these exercise induced. So by correct proper training protocol and medication, you can actually train those clients. But when it comes to regular client, I had again elderly client who was around 56 years old, and when I was training a cricket team for Rotary, he used to travel every day for the match. And during each of these matches, obviously after every 10 minutes, I had to go to the ground and giving some breathing exercise. Such was his passion that he had to play in spite of his condition. And there are certain variations in breathing exercise. When we're talking about exercise induced asthma, your breathing exercise cannot be deep breathing, especially when the client is having the wheezing attack and chest tightness. You need to have a whistle breathing, like whistling breathing technique, which you all are aware of, and not deep, slow, short burst of whistling breathing, because that will help the client to recover. But like any other medical condition, a client with asthma should be cleared by his or her physician prior to beginning an exercise program. Now, this is how your airway looks like. If you look at your left side, the airway is much more clearer. But an asthmatic wall airway would look in the center with like that. But when you look at the far right, that is what is an asthmatic attack. During attack, that's how it looks. You are short of breath. You're not able to breathe properly. That is how the condition. You can. Many of us cannot understand what the client goes through. But by understanding the pathology for a trainer, they will be able to appreciate what the client is going through and interpret or control the situation as per their capabilities. But it is very important. That is why I always suggest to the places where I go and consult that our trainers should be given advice to handle such conditions as well. I'm not saying they will have such conditions in the gyms, but it is always better to have those kind of knowledge. Now, if you look at these conditions, this is quite difficult. And how do we handle such? Many of these clients have their inhalers. Okay, when they have their inhalers, they keep in their locker. When they, by the time they get that wheezing attack, they have the problem, the trainer has to run around to the locker and get it, or they keep it with the trainer. Please suggest your clients not to do that. It should be with them. The inhalers should always be with the clients at every time when they are working out, and they should take appropriate medication. So clients should drink plenty of fluids during or before or after exercises. They should have the medication with them all the times. Like I said, peak exercise intensity, like high intensity workouts should be avoided. And the interval training. Interval training initially should not be given for clients in case of exercise induced asthma. It should be intermittent training where you do one modality, take a short break, do another modality, take another short break. The recover, when I say break, it should not be rest, it should be recovery. There is a difference between rest and recovery, right? So reduce the intensity and terminate the exercise as soon as the clients are showing the symptoms. If the clients are not recovering, and if they are not relieved by medication, activate the EMS or emergency medical system. And client, people with asthma often respond best to exercise in mid to late morning. That is the I have given, because early morning because of the environmental condition. But nowadays when you work out inside a controlled environment like a gym, it does not really matter. What matters is the trainer should having knowledge how to handle such conditions. Now, exercise guideline, like I suggest, is quite similar to hypotensive clients or hypertension clients or even a cardiac client. Your walking, cycle, ergometer usage, and swimming. Swimming is another very, very good workout. And for some clients, upper body exercises, like I earlier said, overhead workouts, lying down supine workouts may not be appropriate because the high ventilation demands. Okay, that is the key thing. Overhead workout should be avoided initially, because that, and also many clients when they do new workout, they tend to hold their breath, and you know about Valsalva maneuver, that increases the stress level and the demands of ventilation increases, and that could cause the attack to increase much more. Now the initial period or duration of the workout should be around 20 minutes. I've given you 30 minutes, but it should be around 20 minutes and gradually progress to 30 minutes or more so. And the frequency should be around 3 days a week. a week initially, progressing to 5 days a week, not more than that. Again, I have given here interval training, but I would suggest you to avoid interval training initially. Go with intermittent training because that is much more beneficial. Again, I would suggest, remind you, there are three basic types of training when I talk about mainly cardio. One is continuous training, where you use only one modality over a period of time. You tend to get adapted fast. You tend to get bored also, and the benefits are not much there after a period of time. The second one is intermittent training, where you use different modalities. You tend to burn more calories in that. Even though you do like 10 minutes, in your mind you're like, oh, I'm doing only 10 minutes, it's not much. But whereas if you say, oh, 30 minutes of one machine only, you tend to think, how am I going to do? You tend to see, you need a TV, you need your music system and all that. But when you think about 10, good, then you take a short recovery, then go back to another. That is intermittent training, which will help you much more better. And the third one is interval training again, which is again for intermediate clients, people with some kind of experience. For them it is highly beneficial because you shock the system. But for people with such medical condition, pulmonary condition or even cardiac condition, you should not shock the system initially, and that is contraindicated. Right, now let's look at hypothyroidism. Now, in this case of thyroid, you know what all is a thyroid is a butterfly shaped endocrine gland. We all have studied, located in the lower front below the larynx. Now, the hormones which are secreted into the blood and they're carried into every tissue in the body. As you see, as you can read, thyroid hormones helps in the body use energy. How our body uses the energy? It keeps warm, keep the brain, heart, muscle, everything functioning as it should be. And the hormone which is secreted is called thyroxine. Basically, thyroxine also controls the way each and every tissue in your body uses energy. Now, what you have to understand, let me simplify it, how people put on weight. And in case of hypothyroid, I would suggest people to take advice of nutritionists mainly, along with fitness specialists also, because the key is diet here. Now, one of the key function of thyroxine is to send signal from the brain to your stomach, say, and to tell you that your stomach is full. When you eat any food, you have a feeling of satiety. That is a feeling of fulfillment, right? And that feeling of fulfillment, it comes because this hormone thyroxine sends a signal, which allows the brains to send the signal to your stomach saying, boss, what you have eaten is enough, your stomach is full. It usually takes around 20 minutes for the signal to come from brain to stomach. That is why it is advised to people to eat your food for at least 20 minutes. You should chew your food well and eat your meal should be for around 20 minutes, not like 5 minutes, finish it fast, run. Because when you do that, you are not digesting it properly. But okay, coming back here, in case of thyroxine hormone, which usually sends a signal from brain to your stomach, telling that yes, your stomach is full, you're full, you're not hungry anymore. But in case of hypothyroidism, this signal is slow. It does not take 20 minutes. It takes longer than 20 minutes. For example, you eat a portion of like 100 grams of rice, for example, you're eating. And in a common person, that would be enough. Okay. But in case of hypothyroid, what happens is because you're not getting that signal, even though for you that food might be enough, you're not feeling the fulfillment feeling. So you want to eat more and more and more. And what it happens, you end up putting on more weight. I hope you understand, you got the idea. So the thyroxine's one of the major function is to give a signal so that your feeling of fulfillment or satiety is there. And that takes around 20 minutes. That is why if you have young kids at home, please advise them to eat, chew and eat well and take your meal at least 15 to 20 minutes to finish, because that's how when digestion occurs very well. Right? Now, what type of workout should I do? I will show you the workout with the weight loss and which one of my client had at a later stage, the plan. Now, if your condition is controlled through medication, which is early morning medication, which you usually take, you should be able to do the same physical activity as someone without a thyroid disorder and need to lose weight. But what I would suggest is for a client who is having the condition and they have been advised to go to the gym, please avoid heavy weights, because hypothyroidism also leads to hormonal imbalance. Okay, it also leads to hormonal imbalance, and that in case of a client, if when you have a hormonal imbalance and you try to push heavy weights, it could lead to also gain in muscle mass. So your focus need to be on your diet too. And if you're just starting an exercise plan, or if you're still dealing with the symptoms, low impact aerobic exercises or aerobics or water exercises and strengthening moves are the best thing, right? Common conditions I have seen in the gyms, most of the gyms where I have, among females where I have consulted here in Chennai, uh, polycystic ovary syndrome is your syndrome manifested by obesity. Now, many of the clients, trainers are not aware that the client who are suffering with obesity have this condition, PCOS, because they don't advise them to go for their blood test. So I have always advised my students, whether they are nutritionists or trainers, to send them for blood works and to see if they have any factors which suggest that they are, or send them to the specialists specifically, OBG, so that you will know whether the client is suffering, because you need to totally change their workout plan. It is a heterogeneous disorder characterized by excessive androgen production. Now, what happens in androgen production is your testosterone level is higher. As you know, that testosterone is a male hormone. Even females tend to have testosterone, but they have it in a very minor amount. As male also have estrogen and progesterone, but in very minor amount. Now, what is the role of testosterone is, testosterone helps to synthesize protein. Whatever protein you intake, they help to synthesize protein to skeletal muscle, right? I hope you're getting an idea. So if a client is having a PCOD condition, and if they are lifting heavy weights because they are able to, what it does is, because of the higher level of testosterone in the client, and the higher level of protein intake, because nowadays it has become a fashion to take a high protein diet. Because remember, high protein diet is not, and also in some cases keto diets also, in high protein diets are Atkins diet, for example, are not the solution for PCOD condition specifically. Because what this testosterone does, it converts protein into skeletal muscle. So when you're lifting heavy weights, you're increasing your muscle mass. You might be losing your weight, but you're increasing your inches. Now my client is going to complain to me, yeah, I have lost, I feel lighter, I have lost my weight, but I have not lost inches. What could be the reason for that? In most of these cases, you need to see if the clients are having these conditions or not. And more often than not, females mostly have noticed around 50% of them between the age group of 20 plus to even around 35 is having such conditions. And for them, the workout plan has to be modified. And that is the key thing there. So remember, understand. And another, I'm just going side by the topic. One of the two vitamins you have to remember, which is very, very important to increase your metabolism. Many times you give the best workout, you give the best diet plan. And what is happening is your client is not, how do I say, increasing or getting, improving their fitness level. They are not losing weight. The reason for that is vitamin B12 and D3. These two vitamins, B12 and D3, are responsible for your BMR. So usually the deficiency of vitamin D3 and B12 can also cause your metabolism to come down. In such cases, it is very important that the nutritionist should avoid food which are high in these two vitamins. Look at the plans which I have suggested. The frequency is 3 to 5 times a week. The intensity is 40 to 60% of 1 RM. Or in case if you're not able to test the 1 RM, low load basically at their capacity. That's why the physio and fitness assessment is of highly important to do that. And your target heart rate should be around 55 to 70% of maximum heart rate. You calculate your maximum heart rate by 220 minus your age. And if you're 20 years old, for example, and you have this PCOD condition, your heart rate while doing cardio should not go below 110, that is 55%, or should not go above 150. That is when you will lose more weight also. That is the key thing. And in terms of intensity, how much repetition, what you do is around 10 to 15 reps, 2 to 3, and cardio around 20 minutes, progressing to 45 minutes. You will see that most of the obese client, whether they are PCOD or hypothyroid, will have similar kind of workout plan. And you start with calisthenics and machines, totally avoiding heavy weights. And you will focus mostly on weight loss rather than fat loss. Yes, I know what I said is right, because everybody says fat loss is the right way of losing weight. Yes, even I would say this, but it is very difficult to get only purely fat loss for PCOD clients. You need to focus total weight loss, where yes, you end up losing certain amount of muscle also, but PCOD clients also tend to gain muscle faster, so you don't need to worry about that. The tempo of the workout need to be 2:3. When I say 2:3, it's the concentric and eccentric. The concentric needs to be 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. See, the tempo is the max, is the key factor on how your muscle works. Because when you reduce the tempo, the load on the muscle increases along with the gravity. It also works on your BMR. So the tempo is very, very important when it comes to lifting weights. And for each condition, for each athlete or each individual, it varies. That's why a customized workout plan is very, very important. And recovery needs to be around initially 45 seconds to even 60 seconds, 1 minute, depends upon the capability of the client. All right. Now let's look at general obese client. Now, most of the conditions like PCOD and thyroid, they also handle obese, but these obese clients, they don't have any predisposing factors. They don't have any medical conditions. It's basically lifestyle. You go to any corporate, I go to various ergonomic sessions, and I will see that around 70% are the people who are working in a IT company, who are sitting in front of the system, are overweight. And you look at their, when I say overweight, their BMI is in between 25 to 27, right? 27.9 actually. And when it comes to obesity, the BMI goes around from 28 to 34. When obesity is 28 to 34. And when you go around above 35 BMI, it becomes morbidly obese. People with morbidly obese usually tend to have higher chances of medical conditions like cardiac and predisposable factors are higher. The visceral fat will be much more higher for morbidly obese client. So it is very important to do BMI checks and ideal body weight, but you should not just depend upon them. There are various other equipments also, like in-body analysis, where you check for your fat percentage, your muscle by amount of muscle in your body, compartmental wise, how much amount of fat and muscle in your body is there, and your amount of water in your body. That is very key thing, because many people tend to suffer with water retention in their body. And when they have water retention in their body, they tend to drink less water on top of it, thinking that drinking less will reduce water retention, and that is wrong. Most of the time, water retention happens because of hormonal imbalances, and also if your diet includes higher amount of carbohydrate. Excess carbohydrate in your body leads to water retention, and that is the key thing you have to understand. So this is the thing. Overweight of an obese clients seeking weight loss should accumulate more than 150 minutes. Loss, not just weight loss. So look at these two individual. Both of them have they are 80 kilos, but the one on the right side is 35% body fat. So even though their body weight is different, their BMR will be body weight will be different, because the amount of muscle that is there, 70% body fat is higher. The key thing is to use your muscle here. Fat loss is about hormones and weight loss is about calories. That is what you need to understand. If we attack the hormone via diet and exercise, we can make sure that we burn fat. We need to replace starchy food with proteins and vegetable. If you look at, both are 1 pound, but you see that yellow, that is fat, because fat is higher in density. That means it takes larger surface area. That is why people with higher fat looks much more bigger in size, even though their weight might be same as person who doesn't have that much high amount of fat. The exercise guideline, mode and intensity, we have already spoken about it. Let me go directly to the exercise plan which I have designed. So this is an intermediate exercise plan which I usually give for one of my personal training client, and I charge them appropriately like that. Okay. So fitness plus muscle toning, weight loss. Your goal will be cardiac stamina, endurance. The key thing here is again endurance. Focus on endurance, muscle endurance and cardio endurance, basically stamina. Another important thing I have told when we spoke about diabetes is always weight training before cardio for higher fat burn and increase in BMR. Okay, always focus on weight training before cardio. And another thing is core and abs workout should be done before. Many people tend to finish their cardio exercise like running on a treadmill and or go for a walk, and then they come home and do their abs and crunches. Please don't do that, because when you lie down after doing, or let me say this, when you're doing any aerobic exercise, most of the blood flow is in your legs. Okay, and when you lie down immediately after your cardio, there is a rush of blood to the brain, and people tend to have valso maneuver. They tend to do that, hold on their breath, and it increases the ventilation demand in the brain increases, or sudden rush of the blood to the brain. People with neurological condition, people with hypertension can also go into stroke. There are some cases. I'm not telling they will happen every time, but why to take such risk? That is why your core exercises, your abs workout they are nothing but your muscle training. So when you do core and abs, you are only using carbs as a source of energy. You finish that first and then go into your muscle and your cardio. That is the key thing. So always do weight training and your body weight exercises before, because you burn your fat more and your increases your BMR also. And flexibility, when it comes to flexibility, always give warm up. Your dynamic stretches should be done as a part of your warm up, not static stretch. You should never give static stretch as a part of your warm up, because what static stretch does is it reduces your BMR. Simply, and the key, if you tend to give static stretch, it reduces the BMR. And also, for example, if I'm going to do my static stretch, bicep stretching I'm doing, okay? So I'm stretching my biceps muscle, bicep curl. That means I'm stretching a muscle which is already stretched, right? And that could lead to early fatigue of the muscle. That is why avoid static stretch as warm up. Always do dynamic stretches. So your question, your query should be, what should we do in case of people who are very stiff? In such cases, I would advise you to do TNF stretches or hold and relax stretches, or what we also call them as neurodynamic stretches. So you hold the stretch for 3 seconds and then relax. Hold for 3 seconds and then relax. In such cases, what happens is you don't get into the static mode, but you also stretch as much as the client can feel the stretch. Don't go beyond it. The ballistic stretches where you go explosive mode beyond a certain limit should be avoided, and that could lead to injury. And when you come down to cool down, it is very important that you hold your stretch, all the major muscle which you worked out, for at least 10 seconds. For a common uh, client, a client without any medical issue, or the client, if the client is not an athlete, he or she should hold their stretch for at least 10 seconds to 15 seconds. An athlete should do a static stretch after workout for at least 30 seconds. Now, this warm up, dynamic and cool down static is not just for a regular person, it is even for professional athletes as well. So this is how I plan my workout. If you look at it, this is a very happening workout in Western countries called metabolic training. Now, what metabolic training does is, this strength training burns 25% more calorie than a traditional weight training. It is not heavy weight. Please remember, it is not a heavy weight training. You use a lot of light weights and you use your own body weights in this. It burns more, and you also add a bit of cardio, body weight cardio in that. So the higher the intensity, your metabolism increases. So what it does is your metabolism stays higher even 38 hours after you finish your workout. So it causes something called afterburn effect. You might have heard of that. It is called afterburn effect. So if you want to cut down on a client's fat faster, or if you want to reduce their fat percentage, using metabolic training or afterburn effect is one of the most important. But you cannot do more than once or twice a week because the client will not be able to sustain it. So, and if you look at the other days, what I have done is I have given, thighs and calves, other muscles workout and obliques. I've added cardio every day. But in that cardio, I have given it after the muscle training. First, initially your muscle training and then cardio. And one day I would focus only on total body stretch and core exercises, because training the core is the key factor in training. And then if you look at it, I have given intermittent cardio, which I've discussed earlier. Again, if you look at fat loss cardio interval training, which is again a way of intermittent training, which will help you out. See, the summary here is the likelihood of working with one or more special population client is very high when you go to a gym. I started my career in gymming industry around 2000, and with a serious way around 2006. And what I have seen is, I say it with jest, but India is going towards obesity capital of the world. It's very unfortunate. We are going towards the obesity capital of the world. And if we are not careful, and if the personal trainers or fitness trainers are not careful to upgrade their knowledge, we are going to do more harm than benefit to such clients. So there is, there is a need for the trainers to go beyond the regular training. And the most important aspect is take the assistance of the nutritionist, which is the key thing in weight loss and metabolic condition. The nutritionist plays a key role here in to get an optimal result. So that's about it. I hope you guys got an idea about what workout and training is all about, special condition is all about. Uh, I again apologize for the internet issue in between. Himanshu, you can take over. And if you have any doubt, let me have a look at it and try to clear that. Otherwise, you can also somebody has asked about blood type diet, advantage about